Hello, so today our topic of discussion is the fructose metabolism and galactose metabolism. These two are the very important monosaccharides which have role in the metabolism, which may be related with the why fructose cause lipids to increase and why galactose cause cataract and other disease. So that's the reason we have to study these two topics. Okay, so first of all we are going to study about the fructose metabolism. So in every metabolism, we know in fructose, galactose, we first in every reaction we convert these monosaccharide into phosphorylated form. Why? Because the phosphorylated form is the active form. Okay. So in the glycolysis, you have studies that glucose is converted to glucose 6 phosphate, but the fructose and galactose, these are the monosaccharide which are converted first rather than to 6 phosphated form but into 1 phosphated form. So in the first reaction, which is the fructose converted into fructose 1 phosphate, and I also told you in the previous lecture that when we phosphorylated any monosaccharide or any compound, which enzyme is used? Very good, kinase. So there is again kinase, and which kinase? This is a kinase which got the phosphorylation of fructose. So this should be the fructose kinase. Very good. So fructose kinase is the enzyme which causes the phosphorylation of fructose to fructose 1 phosphate. So now we have fructose 1 phosphate. In the glycolysis, we have studied that there is a fructose 6 phosphate. In the previous lecture we studied that fructose 6 phosphate is converted into fructose 1,6 bis phosphate. Okay, this was the glycolysis, and see here is the fructose 1,6 bis phosphate converted into two compounds, glycerol LDR 3 phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. These both compounds which arise from fructose 1,6 bisphosphate has phosphate. Look, there is a phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate. So these two phosphate, one position is go there and 6 position come here. Okay, but this is the reaction in which only we have one phosphate. We don't have phosphate at the 6th position. So what happened that fructose 1 phosphate is same converted into two compound, glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone. But here phosphate is only attached with dihydroxyacetone and glyceraldehyde has no phosphate. This is the reaction which is different from the glycolysis, and this is the step, very important step. Why? Because in this step when glyceraldehyde only is formed without phosphated form, this is converted into glycerol. Okay, this is converted into glycerol with the help of enzyme which is called alcohol dehydrogenase, which is called alcohol dehydrogenase. This enzyme convert the glyceraldehyde into glyceraldehyde into glycerol. Okay, and here NADH is used and to form NAD. Okay, see these are reversible reaction. Okay, so we make arrow on both sides. Okay, so this is the step which in many questions why this is asked that why fructose called lipids accumulation and why fructose is more atherogenic than glucose and other monosaccharide. This is the reason that why fructose is atherogenic, because glyceraldehyde has not phosphate which is converted into glycerol, and glycerol then is phosphated and become the triacylglyceride part and phosphoglyceride, which are we know these are the lipid. Okay, so this is the pathway by which the carbohydrate is converted into lipid. Okay, so when we have glycerol and we want phosphorylation of glycerol, which enzyme we use? Yes, we use kinase enzyme. Okay, so here again the enzyme is kinase, but which kinase which cause the phosphorylation of glycerol? So this should be the glycerol kinase enzyme. Okay, so very easy. When you have phosphorylation, just put the enzyme kinase there. Okay, okay. So in this reaction we have also have dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Okay, dihydroxyacetone phosphate can be converted into glycerol 3 phosphate and can be this reaction we know in the glycolysis. This reaction was also present in the glycolysis. Look, dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate, these can be interconverted into each other. Okay, so these can be interconverted, and this dihydroxyacetone phosphate which has phosphate and glycerol has to convert first into glycerol then to glycerol 3 phosphate, but this already has phosphate, so this is converted directly into glycerol 3 phosphate. Okay, and their enzyme is used which is Okay, NADH. And one more thing, whenever you have NADH or NAD, okay, just put their enzyme dehydrogenase. In the TC cycle, we would use dehydrogenase many time, okay. So whenever there is a production of NADH or FADH or there is a usage, okay, so put dehydrogenase, okay. So there this enzyme is called glycerol 3 phosphate, glycerol 3 phosphate dehydrogenase is enzyme which used in this reaction, okay. So this is the all about fructose metabolism. But one more thing, and that this enzyme which I put fructose, which convert fructose into fructose 1 phosphate, fructose kinase, and fructose 1 phosphate is converted into this thing with the help of enzyme which is called very good, which is called aldolase. You see, aldolase, this reaction in with the fructose 1,6 bisphosphate in the glycolysis, we also has the aldolase. Okay, so why I'm showing this glycolysis again and again, because this glycolysis is very important. This is related to many reaction. So if you didn't watch my the video of glycolysis, please go there and watch video on glycolysis. Then the whole carbohydrate metabolism will be easy for you. Okay, so we have here aldolase and here also we have aldolase. So what is the difference? Here we have aldolase A, but here we have aldolase B. Okay, so one more thing is this fructokinase, okay, fructose kinase or fructokinase. If there is a deficiency of this fructokinase, we call this essential fructose urea. Why? Because when this kinase is not present, fructose cannot be converted into one fructose 1 phosphate, and if it will not convert into fructose 1 phosphate, the all this reaction will not occur. Okay, so we have accumulation of fructose, and this is called fructose urea. It means that when we have high level of fructose, this fructose can be come into urine, and we say this condition fructose urea. So if this enzyme is not present, okay, this enzyme if not present, it called fructose urea, fructose urea. Okay, which enzyme? This enzyme. If not present, this called fructose urea. Okay, but if this enzyme aldolase B is not present, we have fructose 1 phosphate. Okay, so this fructose 1 phosphate also accumulate and can become come into urine, and this condition also lead to fructose urea. So this enzyme also lead to fructose urea. So what is the difference between both condition are called fructose urea? So difference is that if this enzyme is not present, we say it essential fructose urea, essential fructose urea. But if this enzyme aldolase B is not present, it is called hereditary or inherited, okay, fructose urea. So this means this enzyme is absent in some genetic due to some genetic defect or inheritance. Okay, so it is related to heredity. Okay, so these question are very commonly asked: which enzyme is absent in the heredity fructose urea, and which enzyme is absent in essential fructose urea? One more thing, if a person has is a deficiency of this enzyme, the fructose can come into urine. But if we give these enzyme, then fructose can be lead to this metabolism and convert into other compound, and fructose level can be decreased. But one more thing, that does fructose come from the other monosaccharide? Yes, fructose can be converted by glucose. When glucose is converted into sorbitol, what is the relation between glucose and sorbitol? Look, glucose when reduce, there is a reduction of glucose, so we use enzyme reductase here. When there is a reduction, and by using reductase enzyme, we get the sorbitol. So sorbitol is a reduced form of glucose, and this sorbitol can be easily converted into fructose. So this is the relation by which how glucose and fructose can be converted into each other. Okay, so when first glucose should be in the reduced form, when it is reduced, it is converted into very good, into fructose. And here the enzyme which is used is sorbitol. I'm using S. Okay, sorbitol dehydrogenase. Okay, and there we have reductase enzyme. Okay, when there is a reduction it means we giving them hydrogen. So who will give them hydrogen? And ATP is used here. You should know that ATP is used here to convert the glucose into, very good, sorbitol. I was saying hydrogen is given to glucose, so who will give this hydrogen? NADPH. Okay, not ATP use. Okay, this NADPH gives his hydrogen and convert into NADP positive. So not NADH, this is NADPH. Okay, and when this sorbitol is converted into fructose, there is dehydration. And I many time I said you that whenever we have dehydrogenase, mean we get hydrogen is released from the reaction. That is the reason this is called dehydrogenase. Okay, when we have dehydrogenase, there should be acceptor of hydrogen, and this acceptor is NAD. Okay, many times we mostly have NAD or FAD acceptor. Okay, and NADH is formed in dehydrogenase enzyme. Okay, but sometimes we get FADH from the dehydrogenase. So whenever you have dehydrogenase enzyme, it means you get the NADH or FADH. And when you ever you have reductase enzyme, it means this enzyme give hydrogen, and dehydrogenase cause the hydrogen to release from the reaction. Okay, so this is the difference between these enzymes. Why I am telling you these things with each reaction, because these things are used in the enzymology. Okay, so you don't need to study this topic enzyme separately. Okay, you can use this knowledge for enzyme topic. Okay, so next is galactose metabolism. Galactose is very simple. As I said you, whenever we have monosaccharide, glucose, fructose, galactose, we first convert it into phosphorylated form so that it become activated. So first reaction is simple. Galactose is converted into phosphorylated form, which is galactose 1-phosphate. And which enzyme is used? Yes, we know whenever we have phosphorylation there is a kinase. And which kinase for the galactose is galactose kinase. So this is very simple biochemistry. Okay, this have the same method for every reaction. When we get phosphorylated form, then this phosphorylated form can be converted into another things. Okay, so first reaction always is conversion of the monosaccharide into phosphorylated form. Okay, now we have galactose 1-phosphate. This galactose 1-phosphate is converted into yes, into this reaction. Okay, why I use this arrow? I should use like this. This galactose 1-phosphate is converted into UDP galactose. How this reaction is occur? We use the UDP of, we just convert this galactose 1-phosphate into UDP galactose. How? We have here something another which is called UDP glucose. Okay, so UDP glucose give this UDP to galactose, and in exchange of UDP it get phosphate. So galactose give phosphate and glucose gives UDP. Okay, so UDP, this UDP of the glucose become the part of galactose, and it become the UDP galactose, and this phosphate now become the part of glucose, and it become the glucose, very good, 6-phosphate. Okay, so simple reaction. This glucose give its UDP and this galactose give its phosphate. They just exchange their UDP and phosphate with each other. Okay, so when we have UDP galactose, it can be converted into lactose. It can be converted into glycolipid, glycoprotein and GAGs, and it can be converted into UDP glucose. Okay, how UDP galactose is converted to UDP glucose? We know glucose and galactose are epimers. Okay, so we use enzyme 4-epimerase. 4-epimerase here. You can write simply epimerase, but you should know that glucose and galactose are epimer at 4 carbon. What is epimer, and what the meaning of this epimer? Look, when we have the same structure of glucose and galactose, the whole structure of glucose and galactose is same. Both have 6 carbon, and the attachment of both glucose and galactose has same. Then what is the difference between glucose and galactose? We have difference only at 1 carbon, which is carbon number 4. So that's the reason epimers are those compounds which have same structure formula, only have difference in one carbon. This is called epimerization. So glucose and galactose have same formula. There is only difference that hydrogen is on the right side of glucose, but on the galactose it is on the left side. So we have only one difference between the glucose and galactose structure, which is carbon number 4. So that is the reason we called this 4 epimerization. And if we want to convert glucose and galactose, the enzyme should be 4 epimerase. Okay, this is the whole metabolism of fructose and galactose. Hope you like this video. My video is very long, but I want to give you each and everything and each concept deeply. So that's the reason the videos are very long. Okay, so if you like this lecture, please subscribe and like my video. Thank you. See you.